The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi, welcome to the Political Dice.
Empishi ebyobufuzi.
It's controversial,
Purely political,
well researched,
accurate and global.
Oyagala bya parliament oba council.
Yes, state house oba ghetto.
Ani ayuga ku ground.
Ani gwe babuze.
Okimanyi nga Dr. Kiza Besigye aleesa amaanyi.
Olwofadda bafutoli abateeseemu obuvaazi.
Oba yo DP eri kuki?
Olwojeema.
Bano ba MKCG bo baddawa.
Abo bafuna CDF baamala tebabanja. Olwo baba ate bange bali kuki?
Abo bo akina kulabisa simanyanga posturing tebabiri bali mu structure building. Naye ate ono ye.
Ani oyo oba?
Ye ali kuki?
Oyo tumuleketa gamba apanyiga mawe.
Ebe ndabena birindira no ku the Political Dice ku the Alternative Dig Talk nange Teddy Tenja ewamune
Farida Bikobere
buli wa Sunday
sawa 2.
What the church do?
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, recorder. Did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Tukolekayo mukuwumulamuko tuba twolekedde show yaffe mu bujjuvu negatiddwako omumbejja luwedde Lilian ate n'omugenyi wange w'olunaku lwaleero Mr. David Nyaribi ono ng'ava mu Actionaid Uganda. Tugenda kubanga twogera nsonga za climate n'abagambye dda so nno awo nno wenkubiriza munnange osobola okubanga ate otweyungako on our discussion. Munnange we are live on Facebook, osobola otunoonya ku the Alternative Uganda oba Digital TV ate pages ezo bbiri oja kubanga ate otufuna bulungi nnyo. Engage in the discussion by commenting, giving your views, because waneno mu studios tuja kubanga ate naffe tuwa views zaffe. You can disagree respectfully nga ate tovodde nosobola ogamba anze ekyo sikikiriza, but I think we can do this. Let us devise means together okulaba nga ate tutereza ensi yaffe gye tuwangaalira. Mugenda kubanga ate nyaniriza omumbejja asooka abalamuseeko ayanirize n'omugenyi waffe mu butongole. Wasuze otya mumbejja?
But a very good morning, viewers. Thank you so much for giving it the Alternative Digital. Yes, today is another day for the mighty driver, and today we're discussing climate. Yeah, this has been a topic for some time. We are now facing the impacts of climate change. Yeah, so be part of the discussion by commenting in the comment section. We'll be reading the comments before we close the show. But I am Princess Luwedde David, and I welcome you to the show. Let's all together welcome our guest of the day, Mr. David. Welcome.
Thank you.
Say hello to our viewers.
Good morning, viewers. I am happy to be here to be discussing a very pertinent topic and also to discuss about the role of young people. So thank you for allowing to host me so that we can amplify the voices of young people, but also demystify what climate change is and also speak about what climate justice is.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We would love to know who is Mr. David Nyaribi.
My name is David Nyaribi. I work with Actionaid as a leadership and governance specialist, but also in the youth spaces, I'm known as the ambassador of possibilities because I tell young people that it is possible to achieve your dream. It's possible to do something with your life. Yeah, but I also lead the Activista movement, which is a network of young people around the country that voluntarily advance social justice. And I'm also supporting on trainings for young people within Actionaid and beyond. So I am really a champion and an ambassador for young people.
How does it feel to work with young people?
Myself, I'm still a bit young. Of course, by the constitution of Uganda, I am not a youth anymore because a youth in Uganda is 18 to 30.
Yeah.
So I am slightly above 30 now.
We don't cross to 35.
No,
It
no.
used to be 35.
That is...
We have our brothers here who say they are still youths and yet they are...
Yeah, many people out there don't want to graduate
From the youth
from youthhood. Yeah, and unlike a country like Nepal, where their youth age goes all the way almost 41, for Uganda, constitutionally is 18 to 30. So this whole talk that it's 35...
Actually, by age of 30, it is just when you are realizing a youth. It's when you are
Especially when you're
to do
enjoying
something
the
for
youthful.
yourself.
But then to even make it more interesting for the United Nations, the UN, it is up to 24. So it's UN is 24, Uganda is 30. Countries like Nepal, it's up to 41.
Push us to the other side.
Exactly. So working with young people is quite interesting. You stay young yourself. Young people, we have the energy, have ideas. Some ideas have already been tested, others are not yet tested. But also, young people also seem to have time. So young people are able to do a number of things. So it is interesting to work with young people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. We are all, most of the times they say we are lazy, we don't want to work, we don't want to learn, we don't want to do this. Have you faced any challenges while working with young people?
Yes, the notion comes that young people are lazy because it's those that you have interfaced with. But of course, just like even within the adults, there are those that are lazy, there are those that are innovative, there are those that are quick. So young people are not homogeneous. Young people are dynamic. We are dynamic. We are gifted differently. But also the environment in which we operate in, the way we are raised, it also gets to impact on the way we pan out. That is why within our programs, within Actionaid, but also with other civil society organizations, we want to give the young people the best environment through coaching, mentorship, and encouraging them to be able to exploit their potential. Because being young is a resource. You still have the energy, you still have fresh minds. So this whole idea that young people are lazy, it's maybe because of the few that you have interacted with. But you'll find young people who are overtly active. So it's not, we cannot judge them by the few.
By the few that are lazy.
Exactly.
Because all of us are not lazy. There are those that are lazy, there are those that don't work. But there is also a notion of the attitude. Will you comment about the attitude of young people towards adopting to new environments, learning new things? How has been their attitude?
Yeah, when you talk about attitude, it's one of the most important things that any human being should work on. Because we always state that your attitude determines your altitude. It will determine how far you will go.
Yes.
So it is true because of aspects like unemployment, challenges with school fees, the attitude of young people can be affected. And someone who has a poor attitude will not drive themselves to do anything as much as they should. Their potential will be limited. So young people out there need to you know, attitude is like, you must renew yourself every day. You must be able to watch positive movies, you must be able to listen to good music, you must be able to have good friends. We always say that if you have nine fools, you'll become the 10th. So exactly, if you have 9 good people, wise people around you, you become the 10th wise person. So your environment will shape your attitude, what you watch, what you listen to. So the attitude of some of the young people, we must accept, is not very good because of the aspects that have happened around them. So they have affected the attitude to a point of them becoming less hopeful. I don't want to say hopeless because people misinterpret it, but less hopeful and not as motivated or inspired or empowered to exploit their potential. Yeah.
So have we, the young people, been able to fight for our spaces?
Not as much as we should, because some of the young people feel that the older generation or their leaders are overtly obligated to give them space. But world over, no one easily gives you space. So young people should be able to fight for their space, and we are not doing that enough. But at least there is improvement, that young people are now getting awakened to be able to claim. I like calling it claiming space.
Our fathers are not also giving us the opportunity.
Yes, that's true. There are elders, there are leaders that should have become advisors.
Yes.
But they are still hanging on. But I also believe in intergenerational existence, where we always say that young people want to run, but the older people may know the direction. Of course, even with the digital world now, young people can know the direction, but we cannot completely do away with the advice and the guidance that the older generation should give us. But I completely agree. There are spaces where energetic, innovative young people should be taking up, and that will help us to move faster. Because I can give, just before the next question comes, I can give an example of my very own father.
Yes.
I grew up, my father is my role model, my mentor. He was so active, farming, giving advice. He was an agriculture officer of Bali. But right now he's 80 plus, so his energy has reduced, but of course he still gives advice. He still advises us, but he is not managing the farm anymore. It is us managing the farm. He's not running all over the place giving the knowledge. We are the ones now running all over the place to support. So it is true that young people should take up spaces and advance the agenda.
But if you say there are spaces out there, what is barring young people from taking up those spaces? Because yesterday I saw youths of political parties complaining about not giving them spaces, that these political parties invited them to their political parties, but still they will give them these low spaces, the low positions. Youth leader, they will not say you are assistant principal, a youth.
And they're the ones doing the donkey work.
And we are doing the donkey work. They are the ones on the ground.
Yes.
So when you said there are spaces out there, what is barring us from taking up those spaces?
Yes, one is that young people, most of the times young people are not aware. But we thank God for the digital world, because myself growing up, I would see other young people, like on TV, attending the International Youth Day, participating in a particular marathon, and I would ask myself, how
did they get
did
there?
these people get there?
Exactly.
You know, me, a young person growing up in Mbali, I would ask myself, how do the young people get to
the chance to
these
participate?
spaces? So awareness has been a challenge, but also young people not having an amplified voice for particular issues. For a long time, young people would be all over the place. If they were asked what exactly they want, we were not sure of exactly what we wanted, but it's getting better. The rate of awareness is improving, so young people are able to know about the opportunities and also know the power within them on what they can be able to manage. Yes, but also we, slowly by slowly we are beginning to get a collective voice and identifying aspects that unite us despite the political parties, despite the religion, and we are overcoming this shallow thinking of tribes. You know that I am a Musoga, I am a Muteso, I am a Munyankole. We are beginning to see ourselves as young people. Whether you are in NRM, you are in FDC, you are in NUP, we begin to see that when it comes to unemployment, many young people are affected. When it comes to the key aspect of climate change, which we are going to talk about, young people are affected. So there is this collectiveness that is beginning to build, and civil society organizations like Actionaid and others, plus spaces like the Alternative, are beginning to help young people to shape these ideas, to shape the thematic areas in which they can advocate for. So the voice of young people is beginning to be heard. That's why when you see when the politicians are beginning to listen now to the voices of young people, and young people are beginning to take key positions within institutions as well as within political spaces. So we hope it can get better. We hope more young people, because we need this energy.
We shall get there.
We need the energy, yes.
We have leaders who are representing us in different areas of leadership, and then we're not hearing the voices, or at least putting up something to fight for the young people they are representing.
Exactly. Yes, the leaders and representatives of young people need to do more. It is true that we have a structure where we have youth MPs, we have youth councillors.
The National Youth Council.
We have the National Youth Council. We have youth desks. We have all these structures, but the voices of young people haven't been heard as much as they should.
Okay, they have been heard, but to a lesser extent.
Exactly. And even participation, we have gone beyond just asking for youth participation and stated that it needs to be meaningful youth participation. Okay. So we need these structures to really work for the young people. To represent the young people, but also not to be detached, because the young people normally say, when we elect the youth MPs or the youth councillors, we don't get to see them.
Exactly.
You know, in 2 years, in 3 years, until their term of office ends, there is a bit of detachment. So that interaction needs to improve. So that, because Winston Churchill said that the ears of a leader must ring with the voices of the people. So anyone representing young people must listen, so that the issues keep changing. The issues, the degree of the issues also keeps changing. So it is better for the leaders of young people and representatives to be constantly in touch with the young people.
Okay. Do you also believe the old generation is blocking young people to fully utilize their potential?
In some of the instances, yes. Yes. The older generation sometimes always labels the young people that they are a majority with a minority mentality. You know, they see young people as people who are begging, people who are on the receiving end and may have very little to offer. But that kind of narrative is changing, and we must continuously change it. We must continue to exhibit. What I always tell young people is that any young person who gets an opportunity to serve in a position, serve so well, so that you exhibit what the young people can do. When we get to have a young person leading well, then it opens up space. It helps young people to claim the spaces so that they can lead, and we can refer and say, look, this particular young person has done well, so others can also do it. But every other time a young person doesn't represent other young people well, then the older generation will point and say, we told you. We told you. And then I also always tell young people that we must cultivate good culture, because the cancer of corruption, if a young person is corrupt, then they are going to be corrupt for the next 50 years. You know? But
the generation that follows.
Exactly. So we must encourage young people to build and cultivate good culture, the culture of integrity. If me, David Nyaribi, I am integral, I am going to be integral for the next 50 years. this country, the East African region, the continent is going to benefit in the aspect of integrity for the next 50 plus years. So we must cultivate the young people are here today and here tomorrow. We are not, this narrative that we are the leaders of tomorrow should be not only killed but buried. Because we are here today and we'll be here tomorrow. Exactly.
For that, leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
But we can't fail to talk about the impact of social media on young people.
Yes.
How is it? Because some people are saying it's diverting the young generation from important issues to other things.
The social media is two-way. It depends on how you use it. It is a channel, it is a tool. If you use it for the right reasons, you get better, you do more, and you do well.
And we are the biggest consumers.
Yes, if you don't use it well, it actually destroys you. It eats up your time, you know. If a young person is not focused, you can scroll through TikTok, through WhatsApp, viewing different things from markets to sports, to entertainment of any other kind, to politics, and by the end of the day, you are not holding anything.
Yeah.
But if you're focused, you have identified a particular theme where you want to center and amplify, then you can actually use social media to be able to gain mileage and to pass on the information that you need. It is a tool. And in this particular age that we are in, we must embrace it, but in the right way. So I always encourage young people that you must go on social media with a focused mind and with a particular theme, because it is a good tool that will help you to advance. You can market your goods, you can things. Yes, exactly. You can also for leisure. Yes, young people should be able to relax, but also you must plan for your time to relax. Yeah,
we are enjoying a lot. We are relaxing a lot.
I think so. And I always tell people that you must earn the relaxing. It should not be automatic. Before you relax, what have you done? You should do something to earn the relaxing. And when you have done something, you should be able to relax.
So if I have not done anything, I shouldn't be relaxing. What am I relaxing from?
Exactly. You should be able to do something, you know, before you relax. So that when you relax, you really look back and say, yes, I did it. You pat yourself on the back and you say, I did it.
You just thump.
Exactly.
For the young people that have been able to interact with, have always mentioned this thing of the quality of the education we have is the reason as to why many young people are now unemployed, are now job seekers. Others are only looking for white-collar jobs. Others actually on social media just passing time. They're not looking at the future. All of them want to be actually influencers right now. What's your view about that?
Normally, it gets interesting when we talk about the education. I have been in spaces, attended workshops and seminars where someone goes to the podium and says, the education system has not helped at all. Yes. And yet, the paper that they are going to present, the information that they are going to give us has been enabled by the system of the education that they have gone through. Yes. This particular person has gone through primary, has gone through secondary, has gone through the university, whether Makerere or Nkumba or UCU, has even gone ahead to do a master's and become a researcher, so has researched a paper and is coming to present and says the education system. So I agree that we must add something to the education system, and I'm happy that the government of Uganda yes, has changed the curriculum, and also young people are being encouraged to do just more away just from the formal, but also gain skills. Yes. So I want to state categorically that the education is good, but needs to get better. Because even the English I'm speaking now, the ideas and approaches and methodologies that I have in my head and those that I exhibit, yes, were enabled by the system. I went through primary, secondary, went to Makerere twice. So I have all these ideas because of the education. So the education system is not entirely bad, but we have always advocated that we need to move with the times.
We need to do better.
Yes, in our history and geography, we don't need to study the Canadian prairies that no longer exist.
Tennessee Valley Authority.
Tennessee Valley Authority, an authority that no longer exists. We are still studying the River Mississippi when we are
cocoa growing in Ghana.
In Ghana, when we don't have an idea about the movement of River Nile, about coffee in Uganda, about
the way, we need to study
bamboo, about
things.
vanilla, about all our cash crops and food crops in Uganda. So there has always been need to review, and sometimes you wonder, because within the Ministry of Education we have committees for reviewing curriculum, we have all these officers. So we've been calling out that people should do their job, review the courses. I am happy that Makerere was able to review some of the courses. Some of the courses qualified to become course units, so that the course is comprehensive enough. So our education helps. I encourage all Ugandans and all parents out there and all young people to embrace this education. But that alone is not enough. You can get 3 degrees, but that doesn't guarantee that you will be able to work well or be able to innovate and create a job. You must go ahead and get a skill. A skill like you can learn an extra language. For example, I am learning French, and I'm also perfecting my Kiswahili, so that when I step into Tanzania, I am able to speak, communicate in Kenya as well as in Congo. And if an opportunity comes and I go to Paris or West Africa, I am able to communicate. Yes. Wow. So in French, but then within East Africa, Kiswahili. So that's a skill. But that's just one example. But you can learn tailoring, you can learn, in addition to your degree, in addition to your diploma, in addition to your certificate, so that you are more comprehensive. You can learn digital skills. We are now at digital TV, the alternative. You can learn a skill on how to capture videos, how to capture content. This helps you to be able to do more than just the sociology that you studied and the history that you studied. So the education is good, but we need to add on and we need to get better.
For the first time, I have seen someone supporting the education system, not throwing stones, but supporting it, and praising it. We have the good, not the best, but the education system is good.
At least you're able to speak English. At least,
not only that, you are actually reducing it to that.
No, we're able to speak English.
Yes, we speak English and also advance ideas.
We have good
connect
English,
theory. We're able to connect theory to the practical.
I think that is where the problem is.
Yes.
We can't connect the theory we get from school to the practical part of it.
Yes.
I think that's where we need some kind of mentorship that we are not getting.
Yes, and that's where we always say we need to strengthen our apprenticeship. We need to strengthen internship. Internship is not really just about you going into a space and then after a month you get a recommendation. You just casually talk with your supervisor. How has it been here? And then you go. You need to attain practical skills. The institution that hosts you for internship needs to give you practical things to do, even if it is typing minutes, if it is you try out. There is a difference.
The internees who are hard to help in one way or the other, the only thing they know is to be on their phones from morning to evening. You give them assignments and then they're not even able to do anything.
Yeah, that's a challenge. Institutions that send these internees should orient them. Interns should be oriented before they move to the internship place. Yes, so there needs to be orientation before interns move to the institution where they are going, and also when they arrive in the institutions where they are going to be hosted, the institution also needs to orient them and give them a well-scheduled timetable with activities on how they are able to move and what they are going to exactly do. Because it's true, some interns really get to the host institutions and they really have nothing to do. They are mixing tea the whole day. They are just seated.
They're buying escorts.
Yes, they are benefiting from the free internet.
I want to send you somewhere.
But also, I think due to the high rates of unemployment, even those people in those organizations where we go for internship, they have this fear of if someone shines and then the ED spots them, they may take my position. So there is always that lack of will to orient you fully to the work that they do and how they do it. So some employees get reserved about what they are doing, and then they just let you be. You be there, waste your 2 months, and then you go back to university.
I'll sign for you wherever you
Yeah.
want me to sign.
Yeah, the challenge you are basically speaking about the job security. So for someone to be secure at their job, it also depends on how they got the job, but also the competence that they have. Because if an intern comes through and I got my job on merit, I am competent enough, I should be able to help this person too. If not attain half, at least a quarter of the skills that I have, and take them through practically. But the challenge is that some people, when they get into their jobs,
They get comfortable.
They never grow. You know, the way you entered in 2021 is the same way that you are. You have not added on any skill. If you came in with the typing level 1,
You are
you are typing speed level 1, you are at level 1. If you came in with a few skills, you are just still at that same level. But in the workplace, we are supposed to grow. Our supervisors are not like, we are not in a rat kind of situation, whereby the rats, in quotes, are watching out for the cats who are the supervisors. The supervisors are supposed to help the workers to grow. And also you as a worker, you are supposed to enhance your skills, such that when an intern comes in, you are able to help them without fear of them replacing you. But also, I always tell people that you need to work upwards. If you've worked in a space for some time, you can mentor, coach, and support someone else to.
That is the biggest
so that you take on a new challenge.
So that is something that is lacking in the old generation.
Yes.
They cannot give up spaces. Someone
They
has
will
been
mentor
in
you,
that
but then they
position,
will not give you the space.
and you don't have anywhere to go.
Exactly.
So you end up being an assistant or something like
so
that.
it's also it is also because the people who are there have not enhanced their skills, but there is always something
They
better.
haven't enhanced their skills to move to one level to another.
Exactly. I always tell people that no matter where you are and whichever position you hold, there is something that is
bigger than that
you can do. It can be within that same institution
or outside.
or outside. Even if you're a president, you can retire and then become an advisor for other presidents. You will have more time. If it is a CEO, you can become a CEO of another organization. Or if you're working for someone, you can now create your own institution and advance. So there is always something better that you can get to. So people need to aspire in a positive way,
Yes.
without pushing others down. You can aspire for the next level. Yes.
We've had conferences to address the youth question and all that, but then these things are only in papers, are only in boardrooms. We're not seeing you guys coming to ground. Is it true?
Actionaid is different. Actionaid is different because we have our head office in Kansanga. It is a coordination center, but the real work happens within the regions. We have two regions, the northern region, and we have the eastern region. The northern region is based in Nebi, but spreading into Arua, Zombo, Pakwach, that West Nile area, but also moving into Gulu, into Nwoya, into Agago, into Pade, and then where the global platform that I support is in Apache. Then the east is Kumi, but extending all the way to Bukwo, Kwen, Kapchora, and then Amdat, spreading into spaces of Kotido now. So we really, the real work should happen on the ground. That's where frontline communities are. That's where the real people are. Kampala and the head offices of institutions, those are coordination centers, facilitation centers. Once in a while, move from the region, come and conceptualize, come and put things to paper, maybe report, but the real work happens within the ground and the regions. So Actionaid is a good example where we are on ground to impact the real communities. All our work is ground based, and our reports bottom up. Our resources are sent to the regions to work. So that every institution, even government, you know, the policies passed in parliament, regulations and suggestions and all this passed in cabinet should be able to translate down to the real person. Someone in the corner in Koboko should feel government in a positive way.
Yeah.
Someone in Bududa, in Namisindwa should feel government in a positive way. Someone down in Kasese, in Kabale, should feel government, should feel the CSOs. So, but also within the central, of course, we don't want to ignore the central. Even in the central, we need to feel government, we need to feel the CSOs.
Yeah.
So all our work should target the rural communities, the frontliners.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, according to all that you've mentioned and all that you've been able to do, the findings that you've got in the research when it comes to issues to do with young people, are they like, can they answer the youth question?
The youth question is a big question. Globally, I want to state that globally, and especially in the global south, the numbers of young people are we call it the youth bulge in the global south. The global south, of course, has Africa, countries in South America like El Salvador. Then when you come to India, Nepal, Bangladesh, all these are in the global south. And there is a bulge of youth. And with that comes unemployment, comes with aspects to do with health and access to good education. So all this makes the youth question a bit difficult. But for a country like Uganda, and even countries within the global south, we must be innovative and find ways to turn this, what looks and seems like a problem, to see how to put it to use. Because Europe and America, in their developing periods, you were able to support young people, educate them, and make sure that they are able to advance the country's agenda. So even Africa and the entire global south must address the youth question. We must not speak to the youth as if they're a problem. We must see them as a resource and begin to ask ourselves, how do we do this? So this is a question for government, it's a question for civil society, it is a question for the young people themselves, because the governments and the civil society will not do everything for young people. As the young persons, we must ask ourselves, what is it that we can do? The challenges that we are facing, how can we be innovative to overcome the challenges and make the world a better place for ourselves and others?
Okay, before we cross to our topic of the day, I want you to answer, have there been any reports, suggestions, recommendations that the government has adopted? That those reports that I've made about the youth question and the government has just picked interest in it and it has adopted it?
Yes, the government has actually adopted several, and even legislation has happened on several.
Okay.
The challenge has always come from implementation. For example, young people years back suggested funding, money that young people could access to start businesses, money that young people could access to fund their education, and maybe they pay back. And that translated into the funds that we see.
The Youth Livelihood Fund?
Exactly, the Youth Livelihood Fund, the Myoga that we have now, and then the PDM that has come through, and then also the scholarship.
What were your recommendations?
Yes, so all this, just before I come to the recommendations, so this was coming from young people, and government adopted, but the implementation has not gone as good as we thought that it would go. The success stories are limited, because if you really ask who is it that has benefited from this, very few will come through, and you will see they are politically inclined.
Even the bureaucracy of
the bureaucracy. Myself, I tried to access the Youth Livelihood Fund.
Me too.
I went, you see, that makes the two of us, and maybe you as well. So
I tried the yoga and then I failed. Me and the team that I was with.
Yeah. So if people that would consider, or even would be considered elites, and able to access information, and
it just gets hard.
Then if we are not able to get to this, then how about the rural youth? How about the young women? How about the people, the young people that are disabled? So the policies are there, the adoptions have happened, but implementation has been a bit of a challenge. So recommendations, I always actually tell when I meet government officials and when in the spaces that I go to, including this space today,
Yes.
I say that giving money directly to young people does not really help. Even to the older ones, because we see the PDM money has led to men marrying more women, buying themselves clothes instead of advancing their livelihood.
Yeah,
so even the same with young people. The few that have got this money have not used it in the way that they should have used.
Should be used.
So I always encourage that government should invest instead in education if we are able to support our education system to be less expensive, but also in health and infrastructure. If a young person can stay in Jinja and quickly travel to Kampala to work, Kampala to study, they can stay in an affordable house in Jinja or Masaka and come to work in Kampala. So if infrastructure is good, then the government will not have to give handouts to
the youth to make their lives better.
Yeah.
Wow, issues of the youths can never end, but we are going into a short commercial break. When we come back, it will be issues of climate. We have seen them march in town here. We really need to understand what was the march about, what was its objective, and was it achieved or not. So we are going into a short commercial break. When we come back, it is climate issue. A very good morning. Is there anything with
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, Bikoda. Did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Hi, welcome to the Political Dice.
MPC y'ebyobufuzi.
It's controversial,
Purely political,
well researched,
accurate and global.
Oyagala bya parliament oba council.
bya state house oba ghetto.
Ani ayugayuga ku ground.
Ani bwe babuze.
Okimanyi nga Dr. Kiza Besigye aleese amaanyi.
Olwo fadda bafutoli abateeseemu obuvaazi.
Oba yo DP eri kuki?
Olwo jeema.
Bano ba MKCG bo baddawa.
Abo bafuna CDF baamala tebabanja. Olwo baba ate bange bali kuki?
Abo bo akina kulabisa simayanga posturing tebabiri bali mu structure building. Naye ate ono ye.
Ani oyo oba?
Ye ali kuki?
Oyo tumuleketa gamu apanyiga mawu.
Ebe na birindira no ku the Political Dice ku the Alternative Dig Talk nange Teddy Tenjo ewamune.
Farida Bikobere
Buli wa Sunday
sawa 2.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes, it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be normal.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
I welcome you back from that short commercial break. Now, it is the second hour of the show. You bring in your questions. I will be reading them in the last 30 minutes of the show. Now, I wouldn't be doing myself a good service if I don't talk about gender issues since I am a woman. I want to talk about the gender question, touch it, like give it 5 to 10 minutes, and then we cross to climate change. Do you believe the gender question has been answered? Are there still challenges that are affecting the young girl or the young child, girl child, that are not affecting the men? Because we have seen government trying to do something to elevate the women, giving us affirmative positions in parliament, enabling us to really rise to the level of the men. But do you believe there are still challenges affecting us as the women?
Yes, definitely there are still challenges, and these are not just in Uganda or East Africa or Africa alone. The aspect of gender is still a global challenge. For example, even in Denmark, women are not paid the same amount of salary as men, at least on average. You know, of course, you will have some isolated cases where you have a CEO of a company who is paid more because she's at the top.
Yes.
But again, if you compare that particular CEO
to
with another
CEO,
certainly the male CEO will have either more salary or other advantages to the job. And we see this even in football. For example, we have the World Cup for the men and for the women. When you look at even the overall, whereas in terms of spectators coming to watch, it could even be almost the equal number. But then you will see that the male players are paid way much more than the women players. And it plays down all the way to relations within the home. So the aspect of patriarchy, whereas it is more amplified within the global south and especially in Africa, it is still a global issue. So I think that's why the United Nations and countries that subscribe to the UN put SDG number 5 to talk about gender equality. And I also always, when I get a chance to speak, I always try to clarify that in advocating for gender equality, we are not asking for women to become men or men now to become like women. No, it is about competences that they may have and the opportunities that they will be able to access. So that on the aspect of competence and access, it should be okay. It's good for a man to become a nurse. It is okay for a woman. Some of the best flights I have had were by a female captain. Yes, a woman, you know, landing nicely. They are motherly. It's amazing. They land the plane. You know, maybe
they are not rough.
Yeah, the men have also landed planes well, but I'm just saying that and you know, we must talk about this.
Yeah.
Global, you see, even it's just a few years ago, women in Saudi Arabia were not allowed to drive. You know, but after some level of advocacy and engagement, and yet we know that when it comes to driving, women are
better drivers.
If I want to buy a second-hand car, I will buy it from a woman and not a man. So in terms of competence and abilities and skills, it is okay for men and women to have to be at the same level,
access the same.
Exactly. There are biological and specific roles that we must play. For example, I will not breastfeed. The ladies, it is best for them to do that. So
it is a natural responsibility.
It's a natural responsibility. But the gender question is a key one. And as Actionaid and other civil society organizations, including government, have tried to address this, like you mentioned, the affirmative action that comes through. We have women MPs in the districts. We are doing something.
We have women who are taking on direct seats.
Direct seats, like in Namboza, yes, in Mukono. So we need to do more. I think we are on the right path. We just need to accelerate.
But then we have the issue of culture.
Yes.
And beliefs or religious beliefs.
You are right. You are right. And that is entrenched in what we call patriarchy. Patriarchy, the natural domination of men by the mere fact that they are men. And our societies, we need to deal with this. Myself, I have 4 sisters. They really supported me. We sit at the same dinner table. We discuss issues. And maybe that has already seriously contributed to who I am today. So this whole aspect of women are supposed to be seen but not heard, that they are not speaking in meetings. Whereas it's changing, but we need to accelerate.
Actually, it's the reason as to why many girls are not taken to school.
Exactly. Yeah. Where in the African society, when the resources are limited, tend to favor the boy child initially more than the girl child. So, but we need also in our advocacy for gender equality, as we dismantle patriarchy, we do not need to model again and entrench matriarchy. So there is need.
I think we need there needs to be a balance. Gender equity.
Yes, exactly. Now we are beginning to talk about gender equity, whereby the one who needs it most should be able to get it. Yes.
Do you also relate with the statement of gender equality is breaking families?
Yes, because sometimes it's not broken down well. It's not understood well. In the setting and the organizing of the family, we must have anything with 2 heads is a monster. So if you are going to have
2 lions,
you can't have 2 lions in the same. You can't have 2 bulls in the same crowd. So we must be
there must be a head.
Yes, there must be a head. There must be, but of course, where there is a head, there is a neck. And actually, the women are powerful.
But see, that puts me down.
Not necessarily. Have you heard of the statement that empires and kingdoms are being ruled by women?
By queens.
By queens. So the women, and God has gifted women. They're able to multitask.
Yeah, exactly.
They're able to do certain things that men will struggle to do. But also there are certain things that, for example, the physical aspects. I think that's why a man is physically, masculine and well and built in a particular way. Then the women are soft. Not soft in the sense of weakness, but soft, smooth, and naturally gifted to do certain things. When they hold the baby sleeps. The men, we must really struggle a bit, but the women quickly the baby sleeps because they are soft. They support.
They know the language to use.
Yes. So I think it is advantageous for all of us. It will make a better world if we go for gender equality, but also gender equity. And make sure that women are accessing certain spaces. I normally use this analogy. I always use this analogy that the society is like a plane.
Yes.
And men are one wing of the plane, and women are the other wing of a plane. For people that have flown, you do not want to be in a plane where one wing is not working. You want both wings
To balance.
to balance and
yeah.
working, so that takeoff is smooth, landing is smooth.
Yes.
If we have a society, if we have countries, if we have a world where women are left behind, then we are flying the plane with one wing. And that is emergency landing.
terrible.
You don't want to be in emergency landing.
And then we have the people with disabilities.
Yes,
It's said that they're left out most of the times.
exactly. Exactly. We need to deliberately design programs. We need to deliberately make effort to support the people that
with
are
disability.
disabled, people living with disabilities. And it even gets worse where you have a person who is living with disability and is female. Because the gender question,
And
then the disability question.
disability.
So we need really to be deliberate, like we are doing it for affirmative action for women. We need to also make extra effort for the people that are living with disabilities. And this even gets worse for people who are in the rural areas. So you can imagine if you have a woman who is
disabled.
living in the rural area, who is disabled, it is too much. So we must be able to deliberately target to reduce the gaps.
Okay.
Yeah,
So she's living a life of 3-0. Life is already ahead of her.
exactly,
By
exactly.
three,
So
you
they
are
they're
a
always
woman,
in a
you
catch
are
up.
disabled, and you are in the village.
You are in the village, meaning access to internet, education, health facilities is a challenge. So we must be very deliberate. Countries in the West became very deliberate to create spaces, and I'm happy that our institutions are beginning to now create ramps so that people who are able differently, if it's physical
they can
impairment, they can
easy
access
access.
spaces.
Yeah.
And Actionaid is very deliberate on having, we call it the feminist lens, not radical feminism, no, feminist lens, where women are given the same opportunity as men. So in all the trainings that I design, it is either equal number or even actually more women. Yeah.
Okay, that is, we are empowering, we are advocating for women empowerment, not in a bad way, but in a good way. I want us to cross to climate justice. We are talking the role of young people in championing climate justice. But we need to know, what is climate injustice?
Thank you very much. This is a key question that needs to be answered everywhere because it is an urgent matter. That's why today I'm wearing a t-shirt, Climate Justice Now. Not tomorrow, not next week, but now. It's an urgent matter. When we talk about climate change, we are talking about variations of weather patterns in a long and intensified way. It's not that we have not had floods and earthquakes before and drought before, but the rate at which it's happening and the intensity with which it happens has increased. You know, if it is drought, the periods are longer. If it is heat, it is extreme heat. If it is floods, like we are speaking right now, Mbale is flooded, even within the city. Vehicles that were moving from Mbale town to Tororo had to really wait for hours because the rivers and the streams had flooded. They never used to frequently flood like they are doing today. And if it was warm conditions, it was not as hot as it is today. So the intensity and the frequency is what has come together that we call climate change. And it's affecting the whole world, but of course the global south and countries like Uganda face the effects a little more. When we talk about injustice, what is it that we are talking about? The climate crisis, we have all contributed to it, but the global north has contributed to the crisis more than the global south. Yes. Because from the times of the Industrial Revolution and the setting up of industries and mining of coal and exploration of oil and what we call the fossil
fuels.
Exactly. The global north developed because of these, but at the expense of affecting the ozone layer, the greenhouse gases. And yet Africa, combined with the entire global south, we only contribute to the crisis about 4%. And yet the global north, it is 96%. Then when it comes to the, because that is contribution to the crisis.
Yes.
But when it comes to suffering the effects,
We're the ones suffering.
it is the global south that suffers what we call loss and damage. And the global north, yes, suffers, but not as much as the global south. I always use this analogy that, yes, the climate crisis is like a storm. We are all in a storm, but the global north is in a ship and the global south is in a small boat. So meaning that we feel the effects of climate change much, much more than the global north. And yet we contribute least. Almost our contribution is insignificant, 4% to 96%. So that is the injustice. So when we talk about climate justice, we are talking about the global north playing its part, reducing on the fossils and industrial agriculture, but also putting money in a basket, which we call the loss and damage fund, so that that money can support countries like Uganda and Kenya when they are facing the effects of climate change, to be able to mitigate, adapt, as well as in some cases prevent. So that's climate injustice and then climate justice. Yes.
How come, I just got interested, how come the global north is contributing to climate injustice with a bigger percentage, but again, they are not being affected as compared to the global south that is contributing only 4%, and the impacts are more disastrous as compared to the global north? What is causing it? Is it a natural thing? Were they just intentional about it? What exactly is?
No, it's actually out of the efforts and out of the responses that they have. The global north, countries like the United States, which is and China, which are the largest emitters, countries like Germany, the United Kingdom, England, in those countries, Scotland, they while developing mining of coal and these other fossils, they of course developed their infrastructure, their housing, their communication systems. So when these effects of climate change come, they are already prepared for them. Whereas we are talking about African communities, like people in Mbale, in Namisindwa, in Kasese, who
live by the grace of God.
Who live by the grace of God. Who depend entirely on natural rain, on sunshine to dry their crops. So we are not advanced as the global north. So when the effects come, they affect us more. The north is prepared for, of course, in some cases they have tried to prevent. Where they have failed to prevent, they have mitigated, meaning that the effect is not as much. But where they have also not mitigated, they have adopted. For example, you go to the United States, along the coastline, Florida, San Francisco. If it's hot, they will be under the AC. The air conditioning will be there. How we don't have any air conditioning in Karamoja for the majority of the frontline communities.
Even in our houses, you will enter your room and you're like, maybe someone has lit a fireplace near my room.
Exactly.
It's as if I cooked from inside.
Exactly. When Uganda faced a heat wave in February into March, late February into late March, this very year, what was their adoption? The people were now picking mats to sleep outside. And they also now got new challenges like snake bites, mosquito bites, you know. So malaria cases were going up, snake bites, and death because of snake bites went up. So we are not yet there. That's why we say that those that are contributing to the crisis should be able to support those that contribute less to the crisis, yet suffer more.
So that's why I think climate experts need to explain properly to citizens of Africa and globally to the global south. Because when the issue of oil came up in Uganda, and they're like, the West is stopping us from getting our oil, but for them, they depend on oil, not knowing they've built harbors. If climate injustice, as it happens, as it is said, if the impacts come, they will affect us more than them. So we were always here. Lwachi boba simama futang tebagala fetuga sime. I think that their economy is up there and ours is down. So I think that is the whole reason why they were actually warning us. Don't do that, because the disastrous impacts of the activities, the actions that we're doing, they're going to affect you more than they will affect us. We saw you in town, Kampala here, having a climate march. What was it? What was it about? What was its goals? When people need to understand, because most of us just see you on TV. We don't even know. Like you said, how do you get to participate in those things? Because most of us don't know. We just see things happening in Uganda.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'll just give a very quick background to this and then explain what was happening here in Uganda. On the 4th of September last year, 2023, Actionaid had done research before the 4th of September and come up with a report on the top 2 causes of climate change in the world and the top 2 solutions to the climate crisis. This report, which is called How the Finance Flows, was launched on the 4th of September in Nairobi here, just in the neighborhood in Kenya, during the Africa Climate Week, which was happening in Nairobi, where world leaders from Africa, within Africa had gathered, and other stakeholders. So when this report was launched, it was not just about launching the report, but also launching a campaign. Because the report was showing that finances globally were flowing in the wrong direction. Finances were flowing towards causing climate change and not towards the solutions. So the campaign that was launched was dubbed or called Fund Our Future, calling for the finances now to flow in the right direction. And what are the two top causes of climate change according to this report? One is what we have already talked about, which is fossil fuels, you know. And then number 2, industrial agriculture, this large-scale agriculture which is not basically to support people but for profit, and using of chemicals in terms of pesticides and fertilizers to have extensive kind of crop yield, which is for profit. So these are the two top causes of climate change according to the How the Finance Flows report that Actionaid was able to launch at the Africa Climate Week. And the Fund Our Future campaign was also launched for all Actionaid Federation countries, but also anyone else, any other stakeholder to jump onto this campaign and amplify it. So the campaign was now launched in country launches were happening everywhere, and then they amplified on social media and all these other spaces, solidarity marches and so on and so forth. So for Uganda, we prepared very well and decided that we will have the launch this particular month of May. And our processes started on the 29th of April, where we held a press conference, Actionaid, together with its partners. In there we had Pelam, Uganda, we had Vijana Co, Kota, MEPRO as implementing partners. But then we also had other partners like Oxfam, Restless Development, the government of Uganda itself, and many other community-based organizations and young people. So we called it the Climate Justice Week of Action, where action was to happen in the frontline communities. We had action in Mvepi, action in Nebi, in Kumi, in all the spaces and geographic areas where Actionaid works. But all this would culminate into a symposium. Will all converge into a symposium on the 16th and the 17th of May here in Kampala as a national event, where a loss and damage report, which had been carried out by Pelam, was going to be launched. The Fund Our Future campaign, also nationally launched in Uganda, as well as input from the academia and also comparative reports and studies from other countries, like we had the Actionaid country director of Zimbabwe, we had the country executive director of Actionaid Kenya, and other guests that came through. Even the East African community was participating. So we had what we called a solidarity march, which started from City Square all the way to Makerere University, the School of Public Health Auditorium, where the symposium was to take place. And during the march, we had placards with messages of there is no planet B, climate justice now, fund our future, creating awareness. And of course, all the Solidarity March was being captured by the different media houses, which will now be amplified throughout this year and beyond. But also the people were being awakened, and they were getting aware of the urgency that we must put in with this climate. So that's what was happening. That's why we were on TV, not just to show off, but for a very good cause.
Were young people involved in this campaign?
Very much. Young people were very much involved, all the way from the inception of this idea and crafting of the program, crafting of the route, where would we march, where would have enough awareness. Young people were part. And while the symposium happened, we had young people who presented on what they are doing. So I didn't tell you about the solutions. We had, the challenge is fossils and then industrial agriculture. The solutions to these two, one is renewable and alternative energy, like solar, wind energy. Then for the challenge of industrial agriculture, the tested solution is agroecology. So we had young people in the symposium space exhibiting how they are carrying out agroecology. We also had people that are doing advancing the alternative energy and renewable energy, you know, energy saving stoves, advocacy for using gas. Of course, some of these alternatives are still a bit expensive for the common person, but we will get there. It's pointing in the right direction.
Okay, given the fact that the global north are the biggest contributors to climate injustice, do you think they have any will to fight for climate justice, even when it is stated that they had promised some amount of money to that cause and they didn't fulfill?
Yes, the global north also has interest in this because the crisis, no matter where it is springing from, affects us globally.
Yes.
Our contribution is small, but at the end of the day, it is a contribution to the crisis.
Yes, exactly.
So the global north is interested in seeing that the global south, and especially Africa, also plays a contribution in terms of crafting the solutions. So yes, they promised money. Some countries have acted towards that, but we need more. Because at COP27, which was in Egypt, El Mashek, there was a promise to establish the Loss and Damage Fund. And then this Loss and Damage Fund was actualized at COP28, which was in Dubai. But the amounts that were pledged are not sufficient or are not proportional to the challenge that we have. We need money in terms of USD, billions of it, but they only committed millions, 729 million to the Loss and Damage Fund, targeting about 9 countries initially, and Uganda is among them. But also this money is not automatic. Countries must be ready and also put systems in place to be able to receive this money. So the need is big and the money is not enough. Yes, so the Global North is taking steps in the right direction, but there is need to do more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to our oil, is there a way we can extract it without affecting the environment?
Actually, that's an interesting conversation. And all the spaces that we go to as people from the Global South, and especially Uganda, there is talk about the East African crude oil pipeline, ECOP, you know, with the discussion and suggestions that, yes, we are now to move away from fossil fuels, and yet Uganda has just discovered it. and wants to benefit from it. So in these spaces, we are talking about a justice, a fair transition, you know, that we cannot just tell countries in the global south that now stop.
Yeah.
Because this is a problem. Yet countries in the global north, like you said earlier, developed because of coal, have developed because of oil, and some of them are still
extracting
and even
oil.
investing in extracting oil from and laying oil pipelines in the seas.
And then they are barring us from also enjoying.
That's why we are talking about a fair and equitable transition, where African countries and countries in the global south are given a fair period of time, because in the global north, you're talking about transition from fossils to renewable energy like solar and wind. In Africa, some people are transitioning from darkness. There are communities that have not had the fossils. We've not had light. We are moving from darkness now to something. So before you tell us to move away from that particular aspect to another one, give us time. To transition. So we are talking about a fair transition, equitable transition, where African and countries in the global south like Uganda are given a period. So for Uganda's case, we actually saying that we could and we should use the oil to be able to get money to now invest in the green economy, to be able to invest in renewable energy, to be able to invest in agroecology. So countries like Uganda, we cannot just say from the word go, leave the oil in the ground. It's very difficult. Yes, it's very difficult. So countries like Uganda will need to be given time.
So that means the impact of extracting our oil is not too much disastrous?
Considering that we are, as the entire global south, we are only contributing 4%. If Uganda and other countries, in an equitable way, we must use the oil to be able to invest in the green economy and in the green solutions. But also, we also give it to the global north. If we are not to invest in the oil production, then the global north should be able to give us money to directly now invest in the alternatives. The money should be significantly increased, so that we can leave the oil in. We are happy to leave the oil in the ground if we have a viable alternative. And it should be provided by the global north because of the injustice that is there. We contribute less to the crisis, yet we suffer more.
They contribute
Exactly. But we should also
they should be coming up with solutions and funding those solutions, because they are doing the biggest percentage.
Yes, they have started. That's why we're talking about loss and damage, but it's not enough. There is more that needs to be done.
To do more.
But we had these climate change conferences and summits, and then I mean, everything has been talked, everything has been discussed, but then when it comes to putting those findings into action, it's the biggest problem we are having.
Real commitments from countries in the global north have not been seen, and that's why when we, for countries that go to the COP is a conference of parties, countries that accepted that yes, the global crisis is real, and we need to do something about it. So every year, including last year, these countries come together. The next COP29 is going to be in Azerbaijan, in Baku, and still countries will go there. So every COP comes with particular aspects, like the Paris Agreement, came through COP. So commitments are made, but we really need countries to follow up on their commitments, to reduce emissions. The countries in the global north had pledged to reduce emissions. They have not reduced the emissions and followed through their commitments. Exactly. And then they are talking about carbon markets, and for African countries, I always say that even if the global south did its part perfectly, and the global north does not do its part, still the climate crisis will increase. So we must have the global north actually do more, reduce emissions, increase funding for green solutions, and then the global south will continue with what it's doing, because the global south is really green. Yes, our emissions are still low, our green cover is still high. That's why we're talking about carbon markets, but also the reason why we are here, Africa and the global south is really youthful. And the youth are innovative. They can be able to innovate and support systems from the grassroots and make sure that we achieve our commitments on emissions.
On a bigger percentage, have the youths been able to champion climate justice?
Not to the level that we want. That's why we are putting in effort. Like the Climate Justice Week that we had a deliberate targeting of young people. The Fund Our Future campaign also targets young people to become climate justice ambassadors, to become climate justice champions, and play their part in crafting and being innovative to do the solutions like agroecology, but also to amplify advocacy at local, national, and global level. So young people, the voices of young people should be heard. And you know, young people are creative. Creative activism, songs, poems, videos, they can be able to craft a message. And we have seen young people all over the world, many examples of young people who even go into these key spaces and are able to amplify the voices. So young people have a very big role to play. We are already doing something, but we need to do more.
We need to do more, okay.
And the climate question is really for young people, because you are here today and you'll be here tomorrow. So if the planet is not habitable, it is going to be us to suffer, not the older generation.
The next generation will be the one suffering.
Exactly. We must create a sustainable world to support us today, but also to support the generations that are coming
after us.
So climate, when you talk about climate justice, it's also against deforestation.
Yes.
And then we have many of our people cutting down trees to get firewood, but also to make a living out of it.
Yeah.
And then the other issue is about the cost of this gas. I mean, these renewable energies. It's very, very expensive. Have you been able to do something or to lobby to government to at least reduce on the taxes on these renewable energy?
Yes, those are actually the kind of conversations that we are having, and in spaces like the Climate Justice Symposium that we had, the aspect of energy was key on the agenda, and especially what we called clean cooking, you know, where we can use alternatives and then reduce on charcoal and the direct use of firewood. We have begun conversations and also amplifying information around it. For example, it's been discovered practically that a person that uses a sack of charcoal, the amount for a sack of charcoal is almost the same as the amount for a 12 kilogram gas cylinder. And
very
yet this
filling.
Exactly. Of course, there are some advantages that Ugandans and maybe Africans out there will talk about. Charcoal, maybe you are able to roast the meat and all this.
But can't cook beans.
beans on gas. Yeah, but we must be able to help our communities and our people. So you talked about taxes. We must lower taxes on the renewables and alternative energy like gas and even electricity. For regions like West Nile, which are not on the national grid, need to be connected. We are happy that the government has invested in Karuma to up the electricity that we have. We hope that this can lower the cost of electricity, because when you go out abroad, you're either using gas or electricity. You know? So we should be able to have this, that many more Ugandans and many more Africans should use electricity and use gas. Rather, because if we do not, cooking is part of life. You know, everyone, you may not own a smartphone, but you must eat. You may not drive or travel, but you must eat. And 95% of our food is cooked. Now, especially nowadays that fruits are even becoming rare and all this. So we must cook, boil water for tea, cook beans and fry an egg or something. So clean cooking is key. So every stakeholder has a role to play. Government needs to lower taxes on gas and also lower the prices of electricity. I am personally happy that the contract of Umeme is ending. we need to take back our electricity management as a country. As a country, if it's renewed, it should be renewed with better terms. Because
but we are praying it
a
doesn't
unit of
get
electricity
renewed.
in Uganda is so expensive. When I put 20,000 on my yaka, I use it for a short time. It doesn't last me a month anymore. You know, so we need to lower the pricing of electricity, make gas affordable and other alternatives. Solar, you know, taxes on solar should reduce so that solar systems and panels can penetrate more into the communities. But then also the civil society needs to amplify on informing the communities that we have alternatives. You know, I have just told you that I stopped using charcoal some time back. In my home, I actually use gas. Maybe because I cook light meals, we get to have light meals and so on.
I was about to ask you, don't roast meat.
There's nothing like
you know, yeah. Of course, there are some cultures and things that we need to do to make our food better. But we must find alternatives. Also, young people need to innovate. If we can't roast on charcoal, how can we do it? You know, we need to innovate.
Yeah, there are those electric stoves you can buy. You can roast your meat actually using it.
Exactly.
And then the grill pans.
The green, exactly.
Pans, yeah.
So we must think outside the box.
But there is also this mentality. My mother will tell you, I don't enjoy food cooked on gas. It does not taste.
I think it's mentality.
It does
it's
not
mentality.
taste
different.
We need to bring food without telling them how it was cooked, and then they will eat it. They will not know.
Yeah, without knowing whether it was cooked on gas or not.
Someone would prefer food cooked from morning to evening.
Yeah.
They're like, at least that one has a very, very wonderful taste.
But of course, that also comes with a challenge. When you cook matoke, like especially in the central region, I enjoy the matoke. I have no problems with it. But if you cook it from morning to evening, then the nutrients are gone. You are basically filling your stomach. That's why
you are not giving anything to your body.
Yes. And that's why we say that the older generations, the ancient times, people never got as sick as we are getting today. Food is medicinal. When you eat food, it's supposed to, yes, take away the hunger, but also help you to grow, but also take away the challenges that you have within you. So if you overcook it, then you miss out on something. That's why I encourage young people and the old people to eat carrots when they are raw. Some mangoes, you need to eat them when they are raw instead of making juice. You need to eat cucumber, you need to eat all this. So that's a healthy talk that we shall have another time. But it's encouraged.
So this is the time when we have to applaud Dr. Senene for doing a great job on
exactly.
social media. But given
Exactly.
the increment on taxes on fuel, how do you think they will tamper with your energies towards climate justice?
Actually, in developed economies, the increment on taxation so that the fuel is expensive now helps in terms of people adopting the electricity, like electric cars and electric bikes. I am happy that Uganda is already advancing this through the Kira EV, the presidential initiative. I think it's the right path that we are taking. We just need to make these automobiles affordable. The electric motorcycle, the electric car, we need to make them affordable. But also it boils down to electricity, because you need to charge, you need to do all this. So we need to do that.
You've raised a pertinent issue. I think Ugandans need to understand that the increment on fuel is actually an advantage to them, that they should adopt automobiles
The
the alternatives. But also that the alternatives that they are not affordable. That's the problem.
That's also the challenge. But of course, with Uganda on its way to have its own oil, we are hoping that we will not have the oil curse. You've heard of the oil curse
in West Africa.
In West Africa and other parts of the world, where countries that have oil, it becomes a curse for them instead of a blessing. We hope that the oil that Uganda has will be a blessing, in that it will lower the prices of fuel, but also we shall be able to pick enough money to invest in the green solutions, because we cannot keep pointing at the global north if we're also going to take the same direction. So we must cautiously take that direction. You get the money, because oil, world over, oil has a lot of money. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Russia have developed and sustained their economies because of oil.
Yeah.
So Uganda can get enough money to invest in green solutions, but also improve the lives of Ugandans. The Ugandan lifestyle needs to improve. The cost of living needs to go down. And Ugandans are generally happy people. Do something small for them and we will be very happy. Yeah.
I need to go through the comments. Mkulu Mwesigejora Mchenjo, thank you so much for watching. He's asking, how about climate alarmists, stroke socialists, who are deliberately using the law to abuse freedom? It is injustice for the government to stop me from cutting trees I planted in my land.
That's an interesting one. Yes, because the suffering is collective, you know. If you cut down trees, if it were possible for us to be able to apportion you the crisis, we would do that. That whoever has cut the trees suffer the consequences, and for those who have preserved the trees do not suffer the consequences. But once we do not take our action, we all suffer. When a river floods, it doesn't discriminate who cut down trees and who didn't, who occupied the wetland and who did not. So with due respect, that would be a bit selfish. I would encourage him to be generous so that when something nice happens, we all benefit.
But I would partially agree with him in this way, that government is giving away forests to private investors to plant sugarcane because they need sugar. Actually, so if you now come to my private land and ban me from cutting down the trees I planted, yet you are giving out a whole forest to a private investor, it is hypocritical.
Exactly. We must face it and say that in some instances, the government has not taken the right decisions. Government is made up of people. And as human beings, sometimes we make mistakes. Personally, no one is perfect. Even me, I make mistakes, but I own up to the mistakes. So government in some of the instances has not made the right decisions. And it is okay not to make the right decisions, but we must own up and correct them. So the question of climate change, I think a few years ago, didn't make the right connection, especially with what was happening. But now with what we are seeing, I am happy that all the arms of government, the Chief Justice has spoken about it, the Speaker of Parliament has spoken about it, the President even at some point launched the 1 million tree campaign. I would want to find out how that one is doing. I don't know where that campaign disappeared to, but the President launched the 1 million tree planting campaign. Civil society is talking about it. So climate change has a human face to it, exactly. The droughts are affecting our people, including the people in government, you know. So it is a challenge that we now see. We used to hear about it. It's just like COVID. Before March 2020, it was just a story in China. But in March, it was already here at our doorstep, and then the lockdown happened. So the prolonged droughts, the floods that we are seeing, including the ones in Mbale right now, the flooding of River Nyamwamba in Kasese, the reduction of the ice on Mount Rwenzori. Actually, you need to visit the Rwenzori before the ice completely disappears, the snow. So with all this, we get to see that it's a reality. And I'm hoping, and because government has all these structures and institutions, we have NEMA, we have the National Forest Authority, we have Ministry of Water and Environment, we have the Climate Change Department, we have commissioners, we have the ministers, the state ministers. All this is an entire structure and a machinery to be able to preserve the environment, to be able to make sure that we are a green economy. What are they doing? We need to do more.
But now we want our country to grow. We are looking at the economic growth of the country, and then we're looking at climate as well. What should we prioritize?
That is where sustainable development comes in. When we talk about climate justice and solutions, we are not saying that let's leave the forests as they are for eternity. Let's leave the waters and the lakes and the rivers. No, we are saying we can develop, but in a sustainable manner. Sustainability is about meeting the needs of the current generation without compromising the future generations from meeting their own needs.
There are people doing planting trees for commercial purposes. How can someone do this business without affecting the environment? because I am going to plant my trees, but I am looking at selling them in 10 years or 5 years to come. So when it comes to the time of me cutting down, then the government will come in. You should not cut down those trees. But I actually, initially, I planted them for business, not for climate issues.
I always tell people that the West beats us. When I talk about the West, I'm not talking about Mbarara and Cavalry. I'm talking about the global North, Europe and the North America. They beat us at timekeeping and planning. So it is okay to have, well, of course we need timber. We need timber, we need to grow rice, and some of the rice will sustainably be grown in wetlands. But we need to plan. We need to have master plans. We need to have planning, reviewing of plans. We have an entire national planning authority in this country. We need to have planning such that people who are to cut down the trees, there is a plan to replace them. There is afforestation and reforestation.
Yes.
Reforestation is replacing the ones that have been cut. So we must have those plans clear and not mix up things and not make things political. Or tribal or religious at all. We must be clear, and we should, yes, we must cut some trees, but in a sustainable manner. We must fish in a sustainable manner. We must cultivate in a sustainable manner.
Nature narrator, are your campaigns against climate injustice only in Kampala?
No. The answer is no. Our campaign is all over the country, and it stems actually from the local areas into the national and is connected to the global. Yeah, because climate change is not just affecting us as Uganda, it's affecting the East African region, it's affecting Africa, it's affecting the world. But the effects are different. Coastlines get sea rises, you know, where the seas, cyclones in those countries, sand dunes but of course we face the heat wave. Heat waves are more common elsewhere, but the heat wave was here in March. For us, we face prolonged droughts. We face floods. Yes. So these are all over the country. It's not only within Kampala. Kampala, of course, because of its poor drainage system, is facing floods much more recently. But our campaigns and our efforts, our agroecology, we don't have an agroecology demonstration center in Kampala. They are all, we have in Nebi, we have in Mvepi, we have in Kumi. So our efforts are reaching the whole country.
Okay, I think I'll take Joram's comment as the last one. The claims by climate alarmist is not scientific, not grounded on evidence. Is that true?
That's I wouldn't agree with him. Of course, there is a lot of empirical data and empirical evidence showing. You know, there's been this talk in some parts where people say climate change is a hoax. It's not a hoax. And even in Uganda here, some people were not bothered about climate change until the heat waves came. It was abnormally hot that people could not even sleep in their houses. In South Sudan, schools were closed. When that happened, now people became aware and awakened that actually this thing is a reality.
Could you be knowing why Mr. Joram is referring to you as climate alarmists?
Mr. Joram is not alone. Some people think that people are looking for jobs or funds because you know, there is money for this. Not really. It's because maybe Joram and others have not understood the danger that we are in.
But they've not experienced.
If you're religious and you're Christian, it reminds you of Noah's times, where they were saying that the flood is coming, and people saying, no, we are used to our lifestyle. Until when the flood came. Until when the flood came. It's also, I also gave an example of COVID. It was in Wuhan, China, and no one was bothered. But at least this one we're already seeing the flooding. And like I said, people like Joram, I think, will defend their argument that, If it is droughts, we have always had them. If it's floods, we have always had them. But I said at the beginning that the frequency and intensity is much higher.
Okay, I had decided it will be the last one, but I have to take this solution from Prosperous. He says, let the government and those organizations pay people who opt to plant trees as the way of reducing cuttings. I personally, you can't stop me from cutting down my trees, which I planted for commercial purposes, and my children are staying empty stomach, that you are preserving environment.
Same answer, we need to develop sustainable. Yes, and also there is this whole thing we are talking about, carbon markets.
Yes, yes.
I partly believe in it, and on the other side, I don't entirely believe in it. People are paid for planting trees, and if you keep, the longer you keep the trees, you get paid for it.
Mr. Producer, you're going to excuse us for only 4 minutes. 2 or 4 minutes. We want Mr. David to comment on the political atmosphere and how he is looking at the things that are going on politically.
Thank you very much. Of course, politics has been defined as the art or science of running society. So when I hear people say that they don't want to participate in politics, it means that you are basically relegating your affairs to be run by someone else. So we must all pay a keen eye on the political landscape and on the politics that is around us. We need to participate and we need to guide society. So everyone has a role to play. Our political events, Uganda has always been quite interesting, ranging from the 3 arms of government, the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature. So, of course, those are like 3 cooking stones, and in Uganda the stones seem to be tilted. We still advocate, and I want to say that we need to continuously advocate for the independence of the 3 arms of government so that they're able to check each other, but also for purposes of peace. Personally, I am an advocate of peace. I train young people on social movement building, but to act in a non-violent way. To advance society, but also address the injustices within society. So I always call for political tolerance. The challenges we face don't base on colors. Some of them, of course, can be twisted around colors, but we shouldn't look at colors and religion. We need to identify our key challenges and be able to advance them. We need government to put money where it matters. That's why I liked the theme of our Climate Justice Symposium as Actionaid. It was from words to action. Put your money where your mouth is. If you say health is important, invest in it. If you say you want to invest in the youth, meaningfully invest in them. We have kept seeing our security budgets growing and growing and growing. We thank the government for security and we want to be secure, but we also want investment in good investment in other key sectors. And then the government needs to follow up. Personally, I have never understood why we are failing to fight corruption in this country. We need to fight corruption.
But the will is not there.
There is no will.
Yes, we need to cultivate the will, because we all struggle in one way. When I look at Kampala today, I am not happy with the infrastructure. The drainage systems, of course, there are some improvements that are happening, especially around Mulago roundabout and Kubiri, but we need more. We need the government to fight corruption. Sometimes I feel like maybe I'm not advocating for a ministry, but the president should appoint me the Minister of Ethics and Integrity and give me 3 months in my first 100 days. I will not kill Ugandans, but I will appeal to them. I will speak integrity, breathe integrity, and we need to start from the grassroots. In our primary schools, secondary schools, we need to do this. So we need to fight corruption. The president needs to champion. I personally know that President Museveni is a powerful man. He has a lot of power. He's knowledgeable. He's been here for a while. So we need to see him lead on this, and then the people he appoints.
Okay, thank you, Mr. David, for joining us for the show. It was a pleasure. Your last remarks as we close.
Thank you very much to the Digitalk and Digital TV team for hosting me. I am happy to have been here. and to talk about a number of things, but focusing on later on climate justice. Climate injustice is real, but all of us have a role to play. We need to also factor in the gender question, to bring women on board, to also bring people that are living with disabilities on board. We need to continuously make the young people to be aware of their role that they can play. And we need all stakeholders. We need the government of Uganda and governments in the global south to play their part. We need civil society to play its part. We also need frontline communities to play their part. This is a war that we can win. But also let's fight corruption. Let's be integral. Let us work hard as Ugandans and build Africa. I always advocate for African unity.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lillian, for being part of the show. Thank you so much, Bernard and Mr. Arnold in the control room. It has been a great show, and thank you so much to the viewers that have been on from 8 a.m. up to here at 10 a.m. Have yourself a good day. See you tomorrow, 8 a.m.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.